Welcome to another episode of the Film As We Know It podcast, the show that's run by and for cinema fans. I'm your host, Tim Callan, and it's with me as always is Zach Hamilton. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing good. Tim, we're doing another late night recording.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing the energy. I'm trying, but I'm not going to lie. I'm in my nice, cozy, pullover sweater, feeling pretty good. I'm not saying I'm going to fall asleep this episode, but I'm primed. But I do have some caffeine next to me at least.
My smooth, sultry voice is just going to put you to sleep.
Yeah, and it's not like a Bueller scenario. It's a nice voice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I'll try. I'll make you proud.
Yeah, man. What have you been up to this past week?
I saw a few movies, so that's always fun. I got to see Smile. And it was okay. It kind of like, I don't know. I came out of the theater and my brother's like, so what'd you think? I was like, it was okay. And he goes, yeah, meh. And I'm like, meh. I mean, I was still entertained. I don't know about like meh. And then like every point he brought up, I was like, yeah, actually I can't argue with anything you're saying. And so as days have passed here, I'm like, yeah, maybe it wasn't that good, but I mean, it wasn't bad, but
that's unfortunate because you've been teasing it to everybody on this show. Like, I really want to see this movie. And but look, not every movie is going to be amazing.
Yeah. There's other movies that just did what it was doing just better. And its worst sin is it was insanely predictable to the point where I was like, every few minutes I would lean over to my brother and I'd be like, this is about to happen. He goes, you're probably right. And then boom, it happens. So it was like beat for beat, almost like I was calling out the shots like Babe Ruth style.
That's tough. And it really surprises me when movies like that get made, because in your mind, you're like, this is kind of just like, we've seen all these things. Like we've seen these plot points before. We've seen this kind of a story before, or even just like the way that we're doing this, the pace of it all.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, well, why would you want to make a movie like that? Because it's not unique. It's, and the thing is because that movie still made money.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind trying things that have been done before, but at least like bring new energy to it, or put in a different environment or space, or,
your favorite show, Prey,
right,
is a perfect example of like, this is something we've seen so much of, but what if it was cavemen?
Yeah. Well, Native Americans or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. See, I only saw like a brief glimpse of the trailer, so I wasn't sure if it was prehistoric or Native American, but
no, it's Native American. It's excellent. You should check it out. But yeah, So this one there's other movies that like just did it better. Did what it was trying to achieve better. So, but yeah.
Here's the thing. That movie has made, despite the pandemic still affecting box office between streaming and everything else that affects the box office nowadays, has made globally, how much money do you think? Don't look it up.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm sure since it's still out. Yeah, I know, but I'm bad with that kind of stuff. I'm not positive.
All right.
You tell me. I don't know. I'm assuming it's doing pretty well since it's still doing strong in theaters. I'm pretty sure too. I remember seeing Halloween Ends has already done really bad in its second week. And I think Smile even passed it, even though it was out already. So that's got to be good signs for Smile. It was pretty devastating for Halloween Ends, which I think Halloween Ends might have been better than Smile. So it's kind of disappointing to hear that.
So Smile has made 167 million globally, the majority of that being in the US box office.
Yeah.
However, Halloween Ends has made 82 million. But I have to be honest with you, I'm kind of impressed by that because of the fact that Halloween Ends is available on Peacock right now.
Yeah.
So that's a hard thing to compete against.
Yeah.
Do I watch this at home? Do I go out in public?
Yeah.
Am I watching 3 other scary movies with my brother tonight? And this would be really convenient to watch this at home?
Exactly.
Maybe.
Which we're totally going to do this coming weekend. We're finally going to.
Well, it's the last weekend, really, because Halloween is Monday.
I know. but I still got some stuff in. I mean, not only I watched Smile, I also watched Significant Other and Deadstream.
Which apparently was very weird. Too weird for Megan.
Oh yeah, Deadstream. Yeah. It just, I was definitely a little thrown by it because I was not expecting it to basically be The Evil Dead. Like it's not taking itself seriously, and there's way more humor to it at first. And so I think once you're kind of clued into what it's trying to do, it's hard not to laugh and chuckle while you're watching it. And it definitely has its moments too of Evil Dead. We're like, whoa, this is going really hardcore right now, you know? So it was enjoyable. And Significant Other was okay too. That's on Paramount Plus. It's got your girl from Watcher in it, and It Follows, and it does some pretty cool stuff. It's really short though, and it definitely doesn't explore as much as you probably would want. But anyway, solid, decent enough movie weekend. But you have some stuff brewing, don't you?
I feel like I got so much stuff going on. My life is chaos. Micah Monroe is who you're talking about, the lady from Watcher. And I do want to give some context to what we were talking about earlier, because I was interested as I was listening to you. You know, you're like, well, it's a better movie and it didn't do better. Some interesting stuff, man. So Smile is going to definitely continue to fuel that kind of a movie being made. And I'll tell you why. Because it made 167 globally, as we talked about, million, and its budget was $17 million. Well,
that's why horror movies are never going to die as a genre, because they're generally just so cheap to make. And if you hit, you make so much money off of it.
Halloween Ends, bigger budget, bigger actors.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think that budget was, knowing what Smile was?
I don't know.
Marvel movies are hundreds of millions of dollars, by the way. So
it's got to be top end horror, though, because I mean, that kind of a franchise, I'm sure it's getting significant, but I'm not positive numbers wise. Is it twice as much as Smile or what?
33 million. So you were almost on the nose on that. Yeah, $33 million.
Okay,
but it's only brought in 82. But the thing is, like I said, it's driving subscriptions to Peacock, I'm sure, being able to watch that at home, or at least getting exposure to Peacock with a free trial. So I still think that it's actually not doing too bad. And nothing else, it's made its money back. A good rule of thumb is that they've probably spent, half of that money, like equal to that, half of that. Like, so let's say 33. So let's half that, at 16, 17 was probably spent on advertising.
Yeah.
Advertising is extremely expensive. But yeah, so really interesting. But yeah, I do have some stuff brewing. I appreciate you for teeing me up for that, because I wasn't sure if I was going to mention it. But yeah, it's crazy. We've restructured our show, and we're going to touch on, I don't have the details to this, but essentially, Tim and I, we have schedules. We've got a lot of stuff coming up with holidays. And it's either we get guests and the other person is still carrying the torch, or maybe we just restructure a little bit, change some stuff around. So I can say that ideally we are going to be moving to a bi-weekly format. We are going to be still doing, I'm kind of getting into it. We're going to, I won't get too much into details because we still need to talk about what's going to stay, what's not. But I can definitely assure you that shows like today, Tales from the Set, are 100% still going to be here. It's arguably both of our favorite segment. I really enjoy it. I always learn something. I always learn a lot, actually, not just some things. So I really enjoy the show, and I think the listeners as well really enjoy it. It always does really well when we do clips. And it's just a really fun, segment. So that's definitely surviving. There's other stuff that's going to happen. And it's not that the other things won't happen, but really it's just, we want to guarantee that you guys at least get 2 episodes a week. We'll probably still do some movie reviews here and there, but it won't necessarily.
Yeah. They're going to be more like bonus almost episodes when we see something of value to go see and review.
Yep. And they'll likely be shorter than the normal, long format that we do on the main show. So yeah, and it just frees us up also to do movie reviews for stuff that maybe wouldn't fit into the show schedule, because it's like, oh, it's airing before or it's airing after. So it kind of lets us have that freedom. And so we'll likely still do it audio. Maybe those are audio.
Yeah.
because that might help with the scheduling too, because then it's a little, so you get the video, you get 2 video episodes a month, and then the bonus episodes reviews are audio. We could talk about it, but so anyways, safe to say stuff's up in the air. We're restructuring a little bit, and that's going to help us both out. The other thing too, ironically, is I'm like, yeah, let's like pare one down to pair the other up. We moved everything to Anchor. So we now are on Anchor FM is our hosting site. Some behind the scenes stuff here. Everything went smoothly. I don't think anyone noticed, so that's great. So everything stayed up online. I did my due diligence to make sure nothing blipped. But you know, part of that was just Anchor just has a lot of really cool features. So you guys are actually going to see that now. If you're listening on Spotify, you now have questions. We can put questions in the descriptions. You guys can respond to those questions. We can do polls. How wrong is Zach? How wrong am I on this hot take? And you guys can tell me, and you can live see how many of you agree or disagree with me. The other really cool thing too is we're going to now have a voicemail link built into every description now, old episodes, new episodes. And this is all through Anchor, and Anchor is developed by Spotify. So that's why all of this is kind of Spotify exclusive. But it's really cool because, you know, we've touched on, hey, if you want to leave a 1-minute review, you know, for when we do reviews or whatever, if you want to just leave a message, you want to say something, we'll air it on the show, you know, within reason. But this is just another really easy way for you guys to just reach out to us. Literally just click the link and leave a voice message for us. So it's really cool. We also have our video now on Spotify. So we have our video version on YouTube, but we also have it on Spotify now. That doesn't mean if you're listening on Spotify, you can't just listen to the audio. That's still a thing. You can definitely do that. You just basically turn your screen off and you'll still hear the audio. If you're in a car, it'll default to audio. But it's just another way for people to, you know, enjoy the content. So that's really cool. So those are some of the big things that happened with our show. Some other things that are coming up on the horizon. One show is affiliated with Throw the Knife Productions. The other one, I'm not so sure yet. You know, I really have to speak with my significant other because one of those shows features my fiance, Jacqueline. We are doing an American Horror Story podcast where she, the expert and connoisseur of American Horror Story, is going to rewatch every episode with me, a man who has literally seen only one episode. And we're going to go through all episodes. We're going to talk about it. It's not a review show. We're just basically talking about it like you talk about it with your friends, with the goal to catch up and basically do live episodes. So when an episode airs, we'll air our episode within the same day of that episode airing. So that'll be a lot of fun. It's called the Tupperware Party Massacre podcast, which is going to stick with you. You definitely remember a phrase like that. It's actually a name of an episode in American Horror Story, but it's a fun one. Another show that I'm doing, which is really exciting. It's the first really like heavily produced show. I mean, obviously Films You Know It is the most produced. We've got video, we've got camera angles, we've got it all. We've got great lighting. Tim, you're looking amazing. You know, we got it all. But this show is different. You know, it's not as comedic. The show I'm referencing is House of 1,000 Stories, where basically I interview people in my day-to-day real life. I've got a mobile mic and everything. Call me Podcast from Ghostbusters Afterlife. But that's what I'm doing. I got a mini mic with me. I record wherever I'm at. I record phone calls, whatever. And the things that I'm recording are real life encounters that people have had with the paranormal. I'm very skeptical of this myself. I've had experiences in the past, but I was a kid. And as an adult, anytime I've ever had something spooky, I'm not going to lie, I'll get freaked out, but I will immediately be like, but what made that sound? And I'm almost 99% of the time able to disprove what I heard as being a ghost. So I'm skeptical, but I enjoy a good ghost story, and I'm also open to being convinced. So who knows? Maybe as you join me on that show, you can be convinced as well if you're equally skeptical. If you believe in ghosts, well, you're going to get a lot of it because I'm on all the ghost forums. I'm talking to so many people right now. I think I have like 15 different people that want to be on the show at this point.
Oh, wow.
You know, really, I'm just collecting stories and we're placing them in an episode. So each episode you get about 1 or 3 stories, depending on how long they are. But it'll be fun. You know, these aren't tall tales. These are actual, they believe, real encounters. And perhaps maybe I believe, I don't know, depending on how convincing they are, you know. but it's fun. So it's a fun show. It's different. We're really trying to just bring a lot of variety so that you have Tim and I as well. You've got other shows to look into as well, and just kind of bring you a little bit of everything. So slowly growing the empire. Last thing, and I hate to do so many updates in the show, you may have noticed we're no longer Revered Network as far as our host, like our main kind of network. We've transitioned to Throw the Knife Productions, which is actually a production company I use to invest in films, finance films, and I also do a lot of consulting work through that brand. But honestly, Revered Network was an old thing that I did for Film Revered and Music Revered. It never really had its, origin or really its fingers in what we do now. And so I figured Throw the Knife Productions made a little bit more sense as it's something that I'm currently still utilizing. And also it's just a fun name. We've got some fun names for shows here. I feel like it just fits better with our brand. So you've probably seen that roll out on social media, but our hub is Throw the Knife Productions. But yeah, so those are all the updates. It's a lot. I appreciate you guys for joining us. You don't have ads right now. You may have ads in the future, but right now you don't. So I think that's okay. These are all updates.
Free content.
Free content. Should we get into it? What are we doing, man?
Yeah.
What are we doing today?
We're going to deep dive Alien 3.
Alien to the Third. I'm excited.
Yes, Alien to the Third. Yeah. So I don't know what your background is with the Alien franchise and series, but I always think it's interesting to talk to people who are fans of the franchise and just see where they at when it comes to this movie, because it's kind of divisive one in the franchise.
I agree.
Yeah. So it definitely came out and got killed critically, and there's a lot of hate to go around, but then there's been some resurgence of some people actually really do enjoy and like this movie. So it does try to bring it back to its more horror roots in the third one. Mm-hmm. But it definitely has lots of interesting, fun issues to go with this one. So I figured why not start with this one in our horror month and go with it.
I'm curious. Do you touch on financials for this film?
A little bit.
You do? Yeah. Okay. Well, then I won't get into it then. I don't want to spoil. So I will let you do it. Because I'm curious at their budget kind of floored me a little bit based on what we just talked about. All right. What do you got? What's the hot goss? What's the hot takes we're going to start off on this journey with?
All right. So our characters today is we have David Fincher in his theatrical debut.
David Fincher.
David Fincher. Yes.
Legend.
Exactly. But this is, at this point, he's just been making music videos and he's like gotten himself a pretty big name for making music videos. He's done some famous Madonna music videos. And so he's coming fresh off that to do his theatrical debut here. We have David Giller or David Geiler. I'm not really sure. Producer, Walter Hill, producer, Sigourney Weaver. Michael Biehn even comes up a couple times, star from the second one. So anyway, this third one was supposed to be, it kind of was going back and forth whether this third one was going to be the final one of the franchise or whether they were going to try to do one of those. We're going to make two more and we're going to fill them back to back. And there's going to be a 3 and a 4. So basically this movie was in some development hell issues. And there was a lot of pressure on this one to get it right, because obviously Alien, massive, huge hit. And then its sequel by Cameron there, Aliens, right, was an even more massive of a hit, right? So two movies.
It's tough shoes to fill, but at the same time, it's like it is a tried and true franchise at this point. We've had a original and a sequel, both doing amazing. Third one, it's going to be a hit.
Yeah. And they're feeling so excited to pump this thing up. They even released a trailer before this movie's like even really made, before a script is even finished. They put out this trailer.
What?
They put out a trailer and it was like, this is going to come out in 92. They were kind of hinting on that the aliens were going to come to Earth and kind of psyching people up. So kind of insane that they're like promoting it.
Pretty bold move.
Yeah. They do try to get Ridley Scott to come back. So Ridley Scott, sorry, not to come back. Ridley Scott is asked to direct, but he's only interested in coming back if he gets to do like what happens, how do the xenomorphs come about? Basically, he wanted to do a prequel, and the studio was not interested in this, and so they turned Ridley Scott away, which is interesting because he'll come back to the franchise later to do exactly what he wanted to do,
right?
With Prometheus. So instead, they go out and try to hire Rennie Harlin, and Rennie Harlin is not liking how a lot of the scripts are going. He's not getting along with what they want to do. And so Rennie Harlin leaves to go do Die Hard 2.
Oh man. All right.
Yeah. Sigourney Weaver is not wanting to come back either. She actually is as much as Aliens was such a huge hit and did really well for her. She had some problems with the second movie that she was frustrated by. Apparently there was some, this franchise since the very first one, apparently. So in Alien and Aliens 3, it was known for the studio interfering a lot.
Aliens and Aliens, you mean, not Aliens 3.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, Alien and then Aliens. There, the first two movies, the studio, even from the very first one, the studio was known to interfere and get involved. Wow. And that made some people upset even to begin with, right? And so I guess in the second one, there were some major plot points for Ripley's character that was cut out of the second one that Sigourney Weaver was not told about until she was like watching the movie at the premiere and was like, what now?
That's so major for an actor, because a lot of reasons why an actor will even sign on to a show is the script, right? It's story, right. It's the whole context of the character. And now you're telling me that it's after it aired. So they filmed these and then they still cut it.
Yeah, she didn't know these scenes were removed or taken out until she went and saw it. Yeah, and so she was mad, and I guess too, it kind of coincided. She's actually a gun regulation type advocate and gun safety and all that kind of stuff. Okay. And so watching Aliens, and she's doing a lot of stuff with guns in that movie, and so I guess it was kind of like a realization for her, like, this is, if I want change in how guns are used and handled and regulated, then maybe I shouldn't be doing movies with lots of guns.
Hey, I'm totally down for you taking a hatchet in space and taking some aliens out. I'm okay with that. You want to use an axe? Let's use an axe. I'm down.
I don't know.
I'm sure it'd be badass.
A xenomorph, man, with that blood, I don't think I want to get close.
You know what? Fair point. My axe melted down to the grip. What is going on? We've made custom axes. Did you make a custom suit? Because my skin's still going to melt off. Okay. Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
So anyway, one of her stipulations to come back too was no guns. So, which is kind of a weird thing, like to come off Aliens, which is this massive hit, and it's way more of like an action focused movie than the first one, right? And there's lots of guns and weapons, and it made so much money, and now Sigourney Weaver was like, I'll come back, but no guns. So it's a pretty like, okay,
talk about handcuff in production, Jesus.
Yeah. And so then it was okay, but I still don't really want to do it though. And they were like, well, we can make so much money off this. We're going to try to make 2 movies back to back, do 3 and 4. And it was going to be where she only had a supporting role in the third one and then be more prominent in the fourth one. And apparently Michael Biehn, who played one of the characters in the second one, who survived there in the second one, was going to be the main character in the third movie. So they were writing scripts and everything. They got Michael Biehn on board. He was all excited to come back to the franchise and be more the protagonist there with Newt. So that was kind of some of the plans there. But so many scripts and script changes, a lot of these things kept changing, falling apart. That kind of got scrapped. And Michael Biehn, when he found out what they were going to do to his character, so he goes from surviving, maybe being the protagonist, to unceremoniously just being kind of killed somewhat off screen in the very beginning of what did come out. He was not happy.
I'm going to tell you real quick because I have experience with this. So a buddy of mine, I will not name names and or the show, but it was a similar situation to a degree where major franchise reaches out to his agent. Hey, we got this beefy role. It's like a main thing. He's got this huge relationship with the main character. Like, it's awesome. It's great. We can't tell you too much about it. We're going to sign all the NDAs. We can't really, it's really going to be like, as you're shooting, you're getting the scripts kind of a scenario because of spoilers.
Yeah.
Gets all this stuff going and then literally dies. And like, I think the first or second episode of like a 10 episode season, and all the major stuff that happens with this character is like them just talking about him in exposition or like referencing him, but not actually him on screen. And so it's like, what the actual F, man? Seriously? So it sucked. It's like, you know, you signed on for one thing and then it totally turns into another thing. Unfortunately, this happens, especially when you've got quite the committee, you know, making decisions about the script, as it sounds like. No real change from 1 and 2.
He was mad, so much so that he pursued like legal action against the studio. Well, because they were still going to use him, like his likeness or whatever, to be killed off in the beginning. And basically it resulted in him winning, basically. And he made more money off of Alien to the Third there than he did in Aliens.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he was barely
Who was his lawyer?
Yeah.
Keep that
I want
guy
to know what
retainer.
happened there, right? So then it turned into, it would be Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley coming back, and Sigourney Weaver said, "Fine, but I have to die."
Man, I'm seeing some similarities between the Halloween franchise. Either Michael Myers is dying or I'm dying. Like, I can't keep coming back, man.
Yeah.
We gotta put this out to
We
pasture.
gotta change this up. It can't just be me coming back. So, but what stipulations, right? No guns. I have to die.
And I gotta die.
Yeah. So
just like Among Us, just shoot her out the air vacuum. She's been voted out. Off into space.
So the script stuff here is pretty interesting. So there's so many different versions of what this movie was going to be. Mm-hmm. Some were going more of an origins route. Others were going to involve Earth, which I guess is why that weird little trailer to get people psyched was hinting at it was going to be at Earth. One script was quoted as being space commies hijack alien eggs. Big problem in mall world.
What even is happening in that sentence? I feel like I just took drugs and between you saying that and now
I figured you'd appreciate that one. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's not even a structure. What the hell?
Yeah.
I've heard of elevator pitches. I've heard many in my career, but that one doesn't even make sense. I don't even know what's going on there.
The space commies and mall world, man, I'd love to see what that would look like.
Good God, man.
The William Gibson script, is actually was well liked. It didn't end up going to be made into the movie, but people liked it and wished that was the third one that got made. Again, this movie still goes back and forth. Some people who like it, some people who hate it and wish they did these other things, kind of very similar to like, what's his name? The guy who made the Jurassic World movies and like, oh, what if his Star Wars movie got made type of deal. Similar things happening here with Alien. So his script got turned into a comic book series. It became an audiobook and it's going to be made into an actual book too. So we have like in other forms, in non-film forms, we do have an alternate third movie that's out there.
There you go.
So the next script was said it was rushed. It was a rushed product of too many story conferences and interference with no time to write it, and turned out utter crap. Was the quote about the script that came after that one. Then that was scrapped, and David Towie came in. This is David Towie, famous for the Riddick movies.
All
right. This is before the Riddick movies, right? Before Pitch Black. So Towie comes in and he writes a script about a prison planet. And Rennie Harlan was the director that was attached to Towie's script about this. And Harlan was apparently not a fan of some of these ideas. And so Towie would be removed and he would go on and write about a different prisoner escape convict type situation instead. Right.
I got to tell you, it sounds like it makes more sense to me versus freaking space commies with aliens in Mall World. So, I mean, prison planet, aliens. I mean, you got some tough SOBs fighting aliens, trying to get their freedom and also not die in the process. I mean, at least there's a movie there. I could see a movie there.
Well, clearly they did keep some of those ideas of prisoners, obviously, with the third one too. So some of his ideas must have stayed. Anyway, let's see. A couple other scripts would follow, including one turned down by Sigourney Weaver, who felt Ripley was turned into a pissed off gym teacher.
Okay.
There were 12 different writers attached to attempt to write the script and rewritten. So, and 4 of them, by the way, are available online if you want to read them. So 4 out of the 12.
Oh my God.
So let's see. Vincent Ward was hired as the new director, got approval to make an artful movie with decaying wood structures. So there's some really weird art if you look it up, but it was the impression I was getting. It was like a flying wooden space structure that was almost like the size of a planet. And this wooden craft in space sounds really trippy. Was run by monks.
Okay. Commies or monks? Let's go polar opposites here. What is even happening in the writing room right now?
And so, so basically, this was going to move forward, but then I guess the reality of making that and the costs of that, she would only do this one if she died. And they were like, I don't know how this is going to make sense. And they tried to make changes and instead they just fired everybody and brought in new people. And this is when David Fincher is hired.
All right. Okay.
So before filming has even started, they would begin to build sets. And this is also before a finished script is made.
Okay. Before filming started makes sense. Before the script is really locked in, that's a dangerous game.
So filming begins in January of 91. And at this point, when they start filming, they will have already spent $7 million.
Yeah.
Just on scripts and sets and everything, that trailer, all this stuff.
And this is in the probably early 90s at this point. It came out in 92.
Yeah.
So this is easily probably 90, 91 when this is happening. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of freaking money, man.
Yeah.
Compared to now. I mean, holy shit.
So we got some fun quotes from David Fincher, and all of this stuff is going to be, anytime I mention Fincher or anything he says, it's all going to be from basically the early 90s because he refuses to talk about this movie. It's so bad that even when they did special edition, Blu-ray, whatever releases for all these movies, every single Alien movie has special commentary and stuff from the director of every single one, exception of Alien 3. Fincher would not come back.
Wow.
He's very clear of what a horrible, awful experience it was. He thought he would never work again. And after a few years after this, he would make 7. And the rest is history.
That's kind of crazy because that's a pretty big gap. I mean, he went right back to his old, ways of doing commercial work and music, like freaking Michael Jackson, Madonna, Rolling Stones, Aerosmith. And then, in 95, 7 comes out.
Yeah.
And kills it. One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. Really messed him up. But Anyway, so once I had gone to Pinewoods, this was, by the way, this was filmed and made in Pinewood Studios, famous there in England, where they film a lot of the Bond movies and such.
Oh, do they, Tim? You would know. I'm take your word on that.
Yeah. Once I had gone to Pinewood for 2 years and had been through a situation where I was a hired gun to make a library title for a multinational vertically integrated media conglomerate, I had a different view on how writers and directors needed to work. I kind of resented his anti-altruistic take. I felt that what the script really needed to talk about was the notion of enforced collaboration. You may not like the fact that you're going to be beholden to so many different disciplines and skills sets in the making of a movie, but if you're not acknowledging, you're missing the side of the barn. A script is the egg, and it needs a donor to create a cellular split that moves it into the realm of something playable in 3 dimensions and recordable in 2 dimensions and presentable to other people. What a
great Fincher. Calm it down a little bit. You get a little intense with the vocab and how you're explaining things. You're starting to start like space commies, mall world. You're starting to sound a little. It's a lot of words that are. It's a lot in there, man.
Remember, he's like probably scarred from this process.
I get it.
Fincher, with a partner, tried to write a draft of the script himself, but his partner was fired. And this is when Giller and Hill would work on a final draft, the producers, and which apparently they were contractually obligated to do. Like part of Sigourney Weaver's contract to coming back was Giller, whatever you want to pronounce his name. Sorry, that pronunciation is so bad here. They have to come back to do a final draft. I guess they were involved in the first 2 scripts as well. So she contractually had to have them back. So apparently she only trusted them to understand Ripley's voice. So I think too, there was some clear apprehension here between Sigourney Weaver and Fincher at first, who again, this is his first theatrical debut type of deal.
Yeah.
But this will definitely not last. Because eventually Fincher and her actually get along really well. To the point where she is such an advocate for Fincher early on his career and everything, even before 7 comes out. She goes on multiple shows and everything and sings his praise and how amazing he was and such a good director. Apparently helped her through some emotional scene in the movie, and she's been sold ever since that he's phenomenal. And basically outright admits that nothing that went wrong with that movie was his fault at all.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is rare in a movie that is as disliked by the people that made it as this one is in this case. Yeah, but they're still willing to be like, well, there's issues, but at least there's some good, and that good is, that's saying a lot, man.
Yeah, it seems like awesome. Everybody agrees that the problem was the studio. So, anyway, so yeah, Michael Biehn again. I found the note here. He refused his character to come back and help in any way after his character was carelessly killed off, and the ideas of him being the main character was thrown out. They were going to use his likeness for a dummy that they were going to use as in his place. And they change out his likeness, and pay him, and he gives permission to use a picture of him to make the dummy, and he gets paid for that.
Jesus, man.
The actress who played Newt didn't mind, and so they didn't have to do anything with that. Lance Henriksen, also from the second movie, also agrees to come back, but doesn't personally like Alien 3. He thinks it's too nihilistic, but he agrees to do it out of a favor for the producer, but does not agree to physically be present to return. So it is an animatronic that is used, an insane, expensive animatronic, like ahead of its time type of deal used.
Holy shit.
In Alien 3. Yeah. So anyway, we have filming beginning in 91 without a finished script. Fincher and the producers often disagreed about almost everything, and they would continuously clash over the script and over budget and costs all the time.
Okay.
So yeah, a giant lead foundry took 12 weeks to construct and put the production way behind. Even with 6 days a week and 14-hour days, the crew were unable to keep up with the schedule.
Oof.
And Fincher wanted 93 days of shooting, but the studio insisted on only 70 days. And at one point, there was a fire where 5 crew members were hurt, and they shut down production for only 5 days. And then they were forced back to work. They did not change any of the shooting days. They kept the same amount of days, and they had to go back to work with 5 less crew members.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So, and during the production here, I guess it was things were constantly changing to the point where the actors just wouldn't even bother learning their lines. They said there was no point, like you'd be about ready to shoot a scene and you get some new papers with a new script and you'd have to start shooting. So they were pretty used to just getting
sounding like our last tales from the set. Any of them have a outburst there in the lunch period, or
no? I don't think this one has that one, but there's definitely some interesting ones here. Interesting thing: Sigourney Weaver did shave her head. She did get paid extra to shave her head, but she kind of said privately that she would have done it for free. She was like down to shave her hair off. Although her
such commitment for someone who's got so many things in her rider, essentially, you have to make these concessions, but I'll shave my head.
Yeah. Her daughter hated it though. So she wore a wig when she wasn't filming because her daughter was very weirded out.
We talked about this recently with us having facial hair and how like our kids would handle seeing us clean shaven, having only really known us with facial hair for the most part. I'm curious how that would be.
Yeah.
And that's the whole head.
So let's see what else. The original cinematographer was forced out by the producers for filming because he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Apparently Fincher was trying really hard to let him stay on.
Is that not like a violation of Americans with Disabilities Act? I mean, I guess so. They're filming in Pinewood, so this is in the UK. So this is a UK based show.
Yeah, I know, but they say forced out, so I don't know. They don't exactly say fired. I don't know.
That is a slippery slope, my guy. I don't know that something like that would fly so easily these days. I mean, that's okay. Yeah.
Apparently, at one point, they did have to shut down production because they were just, there wasn't anything script wise for a little bit.
Holy shit.
They shut down the production for 3 months trying to go through script rewrites. Kind of crazy. Let's see what else. The costume designer, Bob Ringwood, walked off the film early in production after finding out director David Fincher difficult and unpleasant to work with, which I think is interesting. It's the only thing I've found about any negative towards Fincher.
Yeah.
I guess, but yeah, so I guess it didn't work out how do I want to put this? Weaver was definitely unsure, like I said, like before, about Fincher at first. I guess the first day of shooting too didn't work out great because she's like lying naked in a bed covered in a sheet, and she's like half blind from like these bloodshot contact lenses she's wearing. And like Fincher's like sprinkling lice, like fake lice all over her face. And she apparently nearly freaked out on him. But I guess later, it's during the autopsy scene where, again, I guess that was the emotional performance she had to do. And all of a sudden that's where they bonded and they clicked ever since after that.
I just love the idea of like, she's just laying there partially nude, can't really see for shit. And he's all like, yeah, I know that sucks. Okay, just a couple more, just a little sprinkle here. I could use a little bit more lice here. Like, I just love the idea of like how awkward that must have been. And he's like, I get it. It's uncomfortable, but this lice isn't going to place itself. I got to put this here.
Yeah, I'd throw it in your eyes.
Got to make the scene.
At least nobody got piss thrown at them, right?
We've seen worse. We've heard worse.
So Charles Dance is quoted as saying, Fincher had the studio on his back the whole time, phoning him at all hours of day and night, not taking into account the time of change in the days. I guess because the producers are back in LA.
Let me tell you, I've worked on London shows out of LA, and it is freaking brutal. Oh my God. So I can only imagine. But I'm curious that there was as much studio pushback or issues with this film, hearing how much he really is kind of like putting them on against the wall too. I'm assuming that a lot of these interferences are going to happen after the filming wraps and he's not as involved, after they have like somewhat semblance of a director's cut or something.
Well, yeah.
And then they start kind of, doing their thing with his cut.
And I guess too, there's issues between Fox, the producers, Geiler and Hill, and Fincher. And they're all, Geiler and Hill are in the USA and Fincher's in England. Apparently there is one tense conference call with Fox and the producers and everybody over the ending. The ending is a big part of a lot of the issues of this movie. But I guess, the studio ended up siding with Fincher, causing Geiler to scoff at them for listening to a shoe salesman referring to the Nike commercial that Fincher had directed.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah. Fincher complained about the budgetary restrictions. Geiler and Hill finally withdrew from production completely, only returning during post-production.
You see what I'm saying here? You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Let's see how you called it. Fincher ended up rewriting lines and entire scenes on the fly during filming while trying to keep Fox, who were requesting daily updates from the set, at bay.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one, too, that I was learning about today. I guess they were really trying to go for some cool, neat, practical effects.
Yeah.
So they went to like a butcher, like around a foreign market type thing, I guess they found in they found
England. Some bats and there was a little bit of an outbreak. Kidding. Don't demonetize us. We're going to get a misinformation flag on our podcast now.
They did find animals' heads, stomach linings, and real blood and guts that they decided to bring onto the set and use.
Joy.
So yeah, like the chest bursting that happens in this movie is used with real like animal parts and stuff.
Holy Jesus. I'm looking up clips after this. I gotta rewatch this now with context.
I did not realize that stuff was, and apparently it would like sit there on set with the lights and everything. And the smell got real bad. And apparently quite a few cast members got like sick. Throwing up and such.
Holy crap, man. That is insane. Like, yeah. I have to tell you that the scariest thing of aliens was never the xenomorphs. Right. It's the face huggers, man.
Oh, yeah.
That whole concept alone of it latching onto your face, planting something in your chest and it bursting out, and that whole sequence that happened in the original, which there's a lot of behind the scenes on that with the actors not knowing that was going to happen or when it was going to happen. So when you see all the fear and the reactions when that chest explodes, that's like legit. No one knew that was coming. Yeah. So those are all like genuine reactions of like, what just happened? Yeah. Now you're telling me that they're using real guts in this one. So equally terrifying. Just don't do chest burst scenes, man. Like either you're scared, like, oh God.
It's that body horror, I guess. I'm curious to rewatch it. I have to be honest. Like it's been a while since I've rewatched.
Same. Yeah.
Any of the Alien movies. And I think I have them on DVD. So it's been a while since I've updated it, but I'm like a little worried because like one of my students was saying that they didn't like it. And I was like, what do you mean you didn't like it? And they were saying like, I guess it almost sounded like the picture got so good that like, there's parts where like, you're only supposed to somewhat see, is there something moving? You can't really tell, but I guess in the it's gotten so clear and the picture's so good. It's like, you can clearly see the alien. And it kind of takes away from it.
Yeah, I noticed that with some of the Mission Impossible movies with the 4K editions, where the HDR and the color and everything is so over intensified that like their lips look red, and I'm like fussing with my settings as much as I can, And it's like Tom Cruise is wearing lipstick the whole movie and there's really no way of fixing it. I'm like, dude, I'll just watch the DVD version. Like, this is taking me out of the film. The color is a big part of a film. And it just really threw me off, man. It's wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, not the first. I mean, shit, you're going to start seeing strings. You go back far enough on certain movies and you're going to start seeing how they made it because it's such a high fidelity, image of the originals that, like, yeah, man, all the shit that got hidden by standard definition.
Anyway, so obviously this is all costing a ton of money.
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons why I guess the studio kind of started stepping in more because they were trying to limit further costs. And so this was again where the shooting days and schedule kind of got messed with. The effects shot were limited to 25, less than half of what Aliens had. The crew was often working 18-hour days, 6 days a week to meet these deadlines. But it couldn't prevent the shoot to surpass its allotted 7 days. It would eventually take the full 93 days Fincher actually wanted and requested. So, and then again, I guess where the 5 people got hurt and burned was during an explosive that went wrong. After 6 months of relatively undisturbed production, the studio took over and executives would be constantly present to check if Fincher wasn't wasting time and resources. They also scrapped several set pieces to save money. Many cast and crew members joked that in the end, there were more producers and executives on set than actors.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. At one point, David Fincher was just straight up denied to shoot a scene. The producers and the executives came in and says, we're not shooting this scene. And Fincher was like, it's kind of a very important scene. You can't just not shoot it. And they're like, nope, we're not doing it. So Fincher had to create a distraction where he got a lot of the crew and actors to like act out and role play something. And while all the executives were distracted with that, he grabbed a camera, grabbed Sigourney Weaver, and basically ran to a different part of the studio and films the understructure scene where it's just her and the alien. It has the very famous scene of the alien in her face.
Oh yeah.
So some of the most important, most famous parts of this movie almost didn't happen. And it was
like going fully rogue. Let's do a bit of theater so I can get my damn shot.
I can only imagine it. Like, he's just like, oh, they're distracted. And he's just like grabbing her by the hand and grabbing a camera and running.
That's a man with a vision. That's a man with some passion. The man with a plan right there.
And of course, all those things the scenes he shot in secret all made the final cut of the movie.
Man.
At one point, Ridley Scott did come up and show up to set, and he basically told Fincher, like, don't worry, this studio did this to me on Alien. I know this sucks. I'm really sorry, dude.
Oh man, that sucks.
So Fincher and Ridley Scott had a bonding moment over this and got along.
Not the best way to bond, but still a bonding moment nonetheless.
Yeah. So I guess the big thing too was the ending. They knew that she was going to die. The whole thing with the queen alien being in her chest and all that kind of stuff was there. But I guess they did not want the alien to pop out at all. That was not part of the plan. And they were going back and forth about how to film that ending part 2, where the company's trying to convince her to go with them. And apparently that was supposed to be originally more, she wasn't sure which way she was going to go. Then it came out. But anyway, she was going to make the decision to take her life with the alien. And go through to kind of the lava type, whatever you call it, the steel stuff, right?
Thumbs up.
Yeah. So they well, there's the thing. They filmed it, and then not too long after they're wrapping filming, Terminator 2 comes out. And they realize that, oh my gosh, our ending is almost the exact same way that Arnold goes out.
Good God, that's hilarious.
So they have to go back and do reshoots.
Reshoots are a bitch, man. I gotta be honest with you. Like, I've worked on so many random projects I've had to do reshoots, and it's like, it's never a fun process, man. Like, you hope that ultimately it will lead to a better product in the end, but it's just such a freaking nightmare, man.
So this movie had extensive reshoots.
How many days?
I'm not sure. I might have to keep looking through my notes, but right now I'm seeing it spent over a year in the editing room. It just says extensive reshoots.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
They had to, for that new ending, they shot and did some green screen work for that ending with the alien chest bursting out and all that, and her holding on to it. They did that 4 days before the premiere.
Man, I worked on a movie. And I think we sent it to the stereo packaging facility, which is to basically take a 2D film that was filmed traditionally in 2D, convert it into stereoscopic so that it could be played in a theater or on a 3D television as if it was a 3D film. So that's what that is.
Wow.
It's a very tedious process. It involves basically tracing all the characters, using keys and everything to basically get everyone separated so that they can, shade them to give that depth effect. Essentially, they're creating the depth channel, right, from camera manually. And we gave them, I think, 2 weeks before it premiered in theater to do that for, like, I would say probably at least a quarter of the film.
That's crazy.
Like, I don't even want to know what their schedule is like.
Yeah.
I mean, our schedule is crazy, but that's like really cutting it close. But 4 days before the premiere, man.
Yeah. 4 days. So,
and this is the 90s. Shit's not fast back then.
So, another problem with the reshoots is Sigourney Weaver's hair grew back.
Well, that's what happens when you do a movie this long.
So she had to cut her hair again. And she would be paid $40,000 in bonuses just to cut her hair again.
Oh my God. I wonder if Demi Moore got paid for G.I. Jane.
I don't know. Yeah, especially if they had to do reshoots there. I don't know.
Right.
So they hired Greg Canham, to create a bald cap with very short hair on it. The makeup process cost $16,000 and was very difficult in time consuming because the hairline required the cap to be placed very precisely on Weaver's head. Can did the job on the condition that he would do it only once. He ended up doing it 2 more times when Weaver needed to be bald again for the promotional shots and a new ending, since the studio met his salary demands each time.
Bro, he's like, I guess, hey, man, if you're going to pay me, I guess we'll deal with this bullshit.
Yeah.
Man.
So I guess they're in 92 is when they are editing, and they are editing at a studio, and I guess it almost implied it's like down the street or very, very close to where the LA riots are happening. And they were getting really, really close to the lab where all the film negatives were, and it was all being stored. And David Fincher is quoted as saying, "I hope the entire building would burn to the ground and the film with it."
God. Oh my God. So he's having a great time.
Yeah.
Things are going well.
Here's some more David Fincher's greatness here.
I'm ready.
I had to work on it for 2 years, got fired off of it 3 times, and I had to fight for every single thing. No one hated it more than me. To this day, no one hates it more than me.
Oh my God.
He cited constant studio interference during production and actually walked out when the studio rejected his initial cut and ordered extensive reshoots. He was not involved in the final cut, but his initial rough cut later became the basis for the assembly cut that he didn't personally work on, but gave his blessing as long as it wasn't called a director's cut.
He's like, I mean, it's better. Not good enough to put my name to it, but it is better. I will give you that. Yeah. Jesus.
So he learns the hard way of director and writer and studio being on the same page, and survives a very unsuccessful first movie with 7, obviously. He describes Alien 3 as a living hell. The assembly cut is 30 minutes longer, including new dialogue, effects, and more. And again, not directly involved, but did give his blessing. The movie actually did get nominated for a Special Effects Academy Award, but lost to Death Becomes Her. And this movie, what was it? It was originally supposed to cost $45 million. And at the end, it ended up costing $65 million. And there you go.
Yeah. And it would go on to make 55 worldwide, because it was just the US release. But it's made more money. I mean, ultimately,
still got sequels,
DVD sales, everything else you got to keep into consideration too. But as far as box office, though, that's
I guess too. I heard a little bit too. One of the reasons why she was kind of done with the series as well.
Apologies. 55 million domestic. It did have an international release at 104. So it made its money back at 159 worldwide. So not too bad.
Not what it was expecting, especially after the first
anywhere near what they were expecting. Yeah, for sure. To put that in perspective, by the way, if you look at like Alien 2, for instance, right? Aliens, the sequel, honestly, it outperformed it.
Oh, really?
It got 130 million worldwide for Aliens, and Alien made 106. So it actually was it was still following the trajectory of making more money. But again, I think that they were probably like, well, we went from 106 to like 140 almost. Yeah. And then now you're making like pretty close to what the sequel made. Like, I think they're probably hoping to make probably closer to 200.
I mean, it got killed critically. I think Ebert gave it 2 thumbs down. Audiences really hated it. I
mean, things to keep in mind too, like the budget for the original Alien was only $11 million. Yeah. And it made, 106. So
I guess too, they were already talking about before the third one even got made that they wanted to do an Alien versus Predator movie.
Oh.
And like, that's when Sigourney Weaver was like, yeah, I'm out. Kill me off.
Yeah. This is getting to be a monster movie now.
I'm not doing that.
Wolfman versus Dracula. Who
There's some also interesting stuff. I have to I want to look into it more, but there's some stuff with the original too, where there was controversy around Sigourney Weaver's bush.
Oh, okay.
Because she's like in her underwear and getting in the spacesuit at the end of the movie, and apparently that was a problem.
Oh my god!
And
dude.
they had to use some movie magic and stuff around that.
Well, I've worked on 50 Shades Freed, and it still happens to this day. I can say,
yeah.
The modesty sock, I can still see it. So I'm gonna need you to paint that into the darkness a little bit more. Okay, Gil. All right, awesome. That's what I do for a living. Cool stuff.
Gotta love it.
That was not me. In fairness, it was someone I knew who had to do that.
Right.
I was very fortunate. All I did was digital hair, which also involved reshoots and her hair not matching. Very similar. Mm-hmm. And they put a straight haired wig on her with no highlights. And in the movie, she's got wavy, curly hair with highlights. So we literally had to basically digitally add curls. We didn't have any. Well, we're getting off topic on a tangent here, but we didn't have any actual 3D support. So we just had to comb through all the footage that we had on hand, basically develop a look okay, this is how her hair looks on this angle. And now I'm just going to go through all the footage that I have, all the high res footage that I have. And I'm going to grab little pieces of hair and literally track it digitally to her head as it's moving. And then I'm going to digitally paint in highlights. And also her head was bigger because of the wig. So we had to literally move her head down a little bit, sculpt the head down, which sounds easy.
No, it doesn't.
But it's not, because everything behind her where the head was had to get painted back in, and she's walking in front of a window with a city behind her. It's the cooking scene where he's making her dinner. Her hair is all all the curls, the highlights, all digital. It's crazy.
Wow.
I might put some stuff up in here for my demo reel
There you go.
my work, literally making digital hair. So there you go. So not the only movie to deal with hair. I don't think she got a bonus. She just got a wig. So
yeah. Well, you gotta make that sweet Sigourney Weaver money. I don't know, man.
I guess, man. Is that all? Is that the end?
Yeah, that's it. I'm pretty sure.
Oh man.
From the sound of it, I think Alien could be an interesting episode in itself. And I think Alien Resurrection probably could be an interesting episode as well.
Oh yeah.
It seems to be there's just going to be some interesting stuff going on when it comes to this franchise.
I don't think this is the last time we visit the Alien franchise for sure.
Probably not. We might have to just, if we do it again, it will be down the road. And maybe we do a combination of here's just interesting things from all of the franchise.
I love it. Yeah. Well, damn, man. Exciting stuff. Again, I love these episodes. These are my favorite episodes that we do on the show because I always end up learning something and also just genuinely being shocked. And again, like I don't say this to like, pat myself on the back, but like I have worked in the industry for almost 7 years. I've seen a lot. And it's kind of still crazy that I'm continuously shocked on this show when you're telling me some of these stories, because I've had and experienced crazy shit myself that I can't talk about.
Yeah.
And so it's always interesting to just like hear all this other stuff. And I'm like, damn, dude, this is like still happening now. This shit that you're dealing with. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Wild. You hope people learn, but not always.
Nope.
Well, thank you so much, Tim, for deep diving Alien to the Third, Alien 3 for us.
Thank you.
Again, always enjoyable. And also, again, quick reminder, like I said, keep tuned to our socials for updates as to our game plan for next month, when we're going to be airing episodes as far as the guaranteed episodes, plans, at least for bonus episodes as we kind of lock that in. We'll continue to update everything on socials. So definitely keep a look at us. And with that, I say it's time to wrap the show, man.
Yeah.
So please show your support for the podcast by leaving a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or wherever you happen to listen or watch the show. Also, sharing with your friends never hurts. Again, be sure to follow us on social media to get the latest show updates. You can find us by searching for the hashtag FilmAsWeKnowItPod, P-O-D. Again, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Film As We Know It podcast. Have a great week, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.